What's up? Welcome to my diary. I'm Tatami. Here I talk about whatever I want to, and today I wanted to continue my series reviewing movies from a adoptee's perspective, specifically a transracial adoptee's perspective. And today I wanted to talk about Onward, the new Disney Pixar flick. I know what you're thinking. Who was adopted in that movie? Why would you review that from an adoptee's perspective? Well, partially this comes from, I wanted to touch on the adoption from a step parent versus the adoption from a stranger. And also I wanted to talk about the ending, which I didn't actually find as I found it sad, I found it heart-wrenching, but I didn't find it as endearing and uplifting as other people might have. So, the step-parent. I found it very interesting when I was watching it, thinking to myself, like, wow, it's really socially acceptable for you to not give a shit about your step-parent. Even if they're trying to marry your parent, even if they're trying to adopt you, even if they're trying to give some sort of leadership or fill some sort of role they think that you might be missing because you're missing one parent. It's actually pretty socially acceptable and understood, and people get it when a kid does not take to their step-parent very quickly. Maybe this is because of, rhetoric that's been in most of our tales about step-parents. They're likely evil. They want to like kill or abuse you. So it's easier to understand why you would not immediately trust a step parent trying to get in on your life. They may have ulterior motives with your parents. They may have ulterior motives with your parents' money. They may have ulterior motives with you. It's understood, and people just don't really question it. It's kind of included as a subplot almost without thought. Yet, it's when you include an adoptee who's being adopted by strangers, not even somebody that their parent approves of, literally a stranger is being put into their life and taking them out of what they know and forcing them into their situation and being told, you have to be grateful because you could have nothing. This is your second set of parents. That's acceptable, and people are just so confused why adoptees might think that their adoptive parents have ulterior motives, why they may suspect something about this person who's just trying to put a kid in their life. But I just don't see how there's a discrepancy there. Why, like, the adoptee has to be super grateful and understand, like, they've run out of chances, blah, blah, blah. But we don't put that same thing on kids who have a parent. In fact, when there's a single parent, we're like, be careful who you invite in the life. We want the kid to be careful and have, like, a good situation. Don't just be putting shit on this kid just because you want a bone. But yet, and still, like, adoptive parents, there's no such rhetoric. It's just always a good thing. There's no sense of caution. If the kid doesn't take to the parent, it's the kid's fault. But if in movies with a step parent, if the kid doesn't take to the step parent, it's a given that the step parent should do more to gain the kid's trust, to show that they're here for the child. They're not here to hurt them, et cetera, et cetera. So I found that very interesting when I was watching it. I thought to myself several times, wow, like, there is really a different narrative that is given to kids who have one parent that's theirs. And they get to be kind of picky about who else comes in their life. But an adoptee does not get to be picky. We have to just take whatever we're given. And it's kind of seen as ungrateful if we question the other person, if we don't take it to them immediately. People agree with being given back because we don't immediately take to people, and it's considered our fault if we're given back. It's not considered the fault of the person who tried to adopt and wasn't able to adjust or prove themselves, etc. It's just funny to me that step parents kind of get put through the ringer to prove themselves to kids, but an adoptive parent doesn't have that same kind of ringer that they're put through. In fact, it's kind of the opposite. The kid then needs to be grateful, prove themselves, etc., or they have the foreboding cloud of maybe they'll be sent back or unwanted or seen as a burden, even though someone tried to help them. Okay, so my second thoughts about Onward that specifically have to do with adoption, with losing a parent and trying to see them one last time. I'm somebody who was adopted when I was fairly young. I was about 4-ish, a little over 4 when it was finalized. And we were cut off from my birth parents around that time too. By birth parents, I just mean birth mother, because my birth father passed away when I was about 1 year old. And maybe 2 years old. The story changes depending. At any rate, I'm somebody who had a father die really early. So I knew even as I grew up as a kid adopted that I would never be able to access my father. It was just done. There's nothing I could do. Even when he was alive, there's like 1 or 2 or a few situations where we can honestly confirm that he was in the same room as me and my twin brother as babies. Like, he died pretty early on. So I really understood the story of Onward, even though nobody was really adopted in that story. So the ending kind of miffed me a little, because it felt like the youngest had to make excuses for why he didn't deserve to meet his father in the end. I wasn't quite sure I understood the logistics. And I'm an older child, okay? In my birth family, I'm the oldest, firstborn twin, firstborn of my mother when she was a very young woman, maybe 18 or 19 years old. Firstborn twins, I've had those, okay? I'm a firstborn twin who had firstborn twins. I know it is a difficult pregnancy. I do not envy her for having done that at such a young age and been with 2 babies at such a young age. I'm sure it was very difficult. And so, I'm saying, as somebody who is young, I just don't understand the rhetoric behind he didn't really deserve as much as the oldest to see the father because the oldest already had a relationship. I'm as the oldest, literally, I'm speaking as an oldest child. And in my adoptive family, I was a middle child, but I was always kind of saddled with a lot of maturity, as a lot of middle children are. I would always, if I had already had a chance, even if I blew that chance, my younger siblings would be first. They would be the ones talking to our father, to the one, because I had a chance. I already had a relationship with him, as that story goes. So it really honestly doesn't make sense to me that the older brother took the chance, that the younger brother gave the chance, that they kind of justified it, that it was supposed to seem endearing when he's desperately just trying to catch a fucking glimpse. He's exhausted. It's a long day. He's done this huge selfless act. And I just really didn't understand why that was seen as a beautiful thing. I found it really sad. If my younger sibling had never gotten to have anything, but I could still remember something from 3 or 4 years old, I would give my younger sibling the opportunity to get a memory with them. I was like, this is really confusing to me. It's sad. I'm shedding tears. It's heartwarming, but I'm still very confused as to why that was seen as really heartwarming or something to uplift or encourage. I don't know. Maybe that was just me. But anyways, that was my thoughts on Onward as pertaining to transracial adoptee thoughts. Leave a comment if you have any, or if you have a movie that you would like me to talk about from a transracial adoptee's perspective. And until next video, may your ancestors and spirit guides be with you at every crossroads.